and welcome to AWS Julie, or welcome back. In this video, I want to dive deeper into the 4 steps that I shared in my last video on how to prepare for any AWS certification. And for each AWS certification that I prepared for, I've always chosen a project to build as I'm completing my training courses. And I get asked quite often if I'll share my past projects that I use for each of the AWS certification exams. And I am happy to share with y'all how I prepare and pass. But I do believe it is important to do these things ourselves. So, my first mentor in IT and AWS, whenever I would come to him with a question, he would ask me, well, what did Google say? And I think that that was really key for myself in understanding IT and especially AWS. And it is important for us to do these things ourselves to get that hands on experience so that we do understand the full picture of AWS, how everything incorporates together, how it communicates, where things sit, and so on. So, in this video, as we talk about step 1, which is fundamentals of the 4 steps that I use to prepare for AWS certifications, my hope is that this will help you understand how to choose a project to build for your AWS certification preparations, but also help emphasize the importance of fundamentals for our real world jobs, but also for any AWS certification. So, step 1 from the last video is fundamentals. And remember that each AWS certification has its own set of fundamentals that are needed for that specific AWS certification. So, step 1A is prerequisites. There are prerequisites and core concepts for IT and for each AWS certification. So, let's start off just generally. What are fundamentals that you should understand for any AWS certification? Well, can you define cloud computing and what AWS is? What about the fundamentals for virtualization, compute, security, encryption, databases, networking, containers, data, storage, and so on? Let's say that you're preparing to take the AWS Certified DevOps Engineer Professional Certification exam. What is an example of prerequisites that are needed for this exam? Well, my first thoughts are Linux commands, scripting, infrastructure as code, compute, how to manage processes, understanding file permissions, Git, management tools, dependencies, and so on. Step 1B builds on top of these prerequisites, and they are the fundamentals that are specific to each AWS certification. So, hold on, I lost my place. What is an example for step 1B of the DevOps certification? Well, my first thoughts are fundamentals on containers, repositories, artifacts, CI/CD, server storage configurations, orchestration, networking to connect the underlying infrastructure, and so on. Step 1C is core concepts. And there are core concepts that are built on top of the fundamentals that are built on top of the prerequisites. So, what is a core concept that is needed for DevOps? Orchestration, distributed systems, pipelines, workflows, load balancing, scaling, networking, communication, security, deployment components, Kubernetes, and so on. And you'll see how a lot of these are in every category. And that's normal. And you might have different items that you put in each category, in prerequisites, in core concepts, in fundamentals. And then step 1D is advanced concepts. And advanced concepts are a deeper understanding and experience that is built on top of understanding the core concepts, fundamentals, and prerequisites. But it's also a deeper understanding and experience for DevOps for more complex infrastructure, clusters, more management, more systems, scaling, the need for a security management service, automation scripts, monitoring and observability, and so on. And these 4 steps of understanding the fundamentals, which is step 1 for my AWS certification preparation, is a process that I complete for any AWS certification that I set to take. These steps help me choose my project to build as I'm studying and preparing for the certification. It helps me truly learn, helps me understand how to build. And then going back to our last video and those 4 steps, it helps me practice failing, adding the needed security. It helps me ensure that I have the specific needed depth for each exam. And it helps me identify skill gaps and then close those skill gaps within my project and getting that hands on experience. I would love to hear how you prepare for your AWS certifications. Do you also choose a project to help you build and learn while you're going through your training course and preparing for that certification? And I would love to hear if you have steps that you also follow for your AWS certification preparation. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see y'all again soon.